Hello everyone, I'm here posting for this week's discussion board in which we had to look at one selected guideline and then make some comments on it. The code that I chose was the Code of Fair Testing Practices in Education. Right at the beginning, it spelled out a lot of important information about its uses, standards, who it's intended for, and its purposes. I noticed a lot of overlapping information that I remembered from the Shapiris textbook, and these were things like fairness of the test, standardization, and informed consent. The way this guide pointed out fairness stuck out to me, especially when comparing to some of the other guides. It seemed to make a special point and emphasis on fairness, highlighting it as a fairly crucial aspect. Shapiris and the other authors from the text comment on how bias, unfairness, and discrimination amongst diverse groups happens frequently, and that it's pretty controversial in testing and assessment. So the fact that this code mentions it and directly sort of addresses it is really forthcoming, and they take head on an area that's problematic and that others might not address as openly. Another thing that was a little bit surprising is that this code is directed to professionals and not necessarily tests that were prepared by teachers, yet they're encouraged to use the code. So it seems as though a well-balanced code would address both professionals and teachers at the same time, especially if the teachers are encouraged to use it anyways. The code also addressed test takers separately, which is basically both the test developers and the test users. It holds the developers to standards that they need to be meeting, but also passing on important information that the test users are going to need with clients. That is a really important feature because in the Shapiris textbook, it says the people giving the assessments should help teach clients to use tests as exploratory tools and in decision making. So addressing the test users in a competency guide is really going to help facilitate that. The test users need to know how to explain the tools that they're using and be able to put the interpretations of the tests in language that the clients are going to understand. The 4 critical areas that this code provides guidance for is developing and selecting appropriate tests, administering and scoring tests, reporting and interpreting test results, and informing test takers. When going through this code, I did notice it did not spell out anything about the environment or the conditions that are needed for the administration of the test. Another thing that was missing from this code was some of the more technical information to the test user with instructions to explain the validity, reliability, and norms to who they are administering the test to. And then a third piece of information that I didn't really see when reading the code was any mention of diagnoses or if they should be explained in how the assessment may assist in providing those. As far as incorporating a Christian worldview, a Bible verse that comes to mind is, "So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do it all for the glory of God." And that's found in 1 Corinthians 10:31. And that's something that actually has been coming up for me throughout this course because it reminds me of how my identity in Christ is always there pressing me to live with integrity and that I should do everything with God in mind because He's the one that I'm trying to live for. And if I'm doing that, it's always going to come through in my job or whatever I'm doing. So I guess that pretty much covers everything that I wanted to go over. So thanks for listening.